Hello, my friends. This is Brent here. I am a productivity and actualization coach, and welcome to one of my most ambitious videos to date, one that I've been waiting for an opportunity to give for a very long time now. We're going to be discussing the masculine and feminine aspects of productivity. I'm excited about this video because as I have been studying productivity for the last 6 years, I have started to notice meta trends on this subject that don't get addressed in common discussions, common content that you see on productivity. What we notice in discussions on productivity, usually generally online and YouTube, Reddit, wherever else, is a type of productivity that falls in one of two camps, whether it's the masculine or the feminine, but not a whole lot on the integration of the masculine and feminine aspects of productivity. And so it's through learning about the different polarities, learning how to properly blend them together, that positions us to attain what I sometimes refer to as sustainable high-level productivity. It is, ironically, the best use of your time. You know, for those of you who are scared of wasting time and really want to get the most done and to be in the flow state and kind of get the most work that you can possibly do, then studying the proper integration of masculine and feminine productivity would be it. Because if you're off balance, you can create success for yourself, as we will also discuss, but with great sacrifice, with great energy lost in friction, and it's just not the optimal way of going about it. But if you do know how to recognize them and properly blend them together, then you can move in a way that's that we really need a lot of paradoxes to describe. So a lot of effortless effort, so to speak, a lot of moving really quickly, but also at a standstill, and so. It'll be really exciting. I've mapped this whole thing out with quite a lot of detail. I've included a lot of examples of different figures and bits of information online so that this can really come to life for you, so you can get a really good, clear, kind of integrated sense of what I'm talking about. You should leave this film with a great sense of understanding. And my other ulterior motive here is that what I'm coming to realize as I make these videos for you is that I'm integrating just such a wide variety of different philosophies and approaches to this concept of becoming self-actualized. So sometimes it's about how to get things done and how to really push yourself, and the self-integrity principle and other things I talk about. But then sometimes I'll really want to talk about the power of now and spirituality and Eckhart Tolle and go to some esoteric stuff. And I really want to bring all of it in place to create a really holistic, emergent experience and understanding of productivity as I see it, as I conceptualize it. And so in order to do that, I'm realizing that I need to make foundational videos like these so that I can reference them later. Because what I want to do is I want to explain masculine and feminine aspects of productivity here now in a sufficient amount of detail so that when I talk to you in future videos, I can just quickly talk about this and be like, oh yeah, do you remember when we talked about this over here? And then I can just get on with it to the whatever layers are put on top of that. So that is the other motive behind this video. So yeah, I put this together with a lot of detail. I put it together in the form of a class. This is a lesson, and so therefore you can study this. This is the sort of resource where if you want to study this, and I'll give you stuff that you can do, stuff that you can journal out, like you can really interact with this. And if you want to, this can change everything for you. You can just bazoom to a high level of productivity in a relatively short period of time, not instantly. You'll have to practice and so forth, but you will bypass, all the years of my own trial and error as I've been learning how to do all of this and articulate all of this. And you can just step really quickly, really rapidly into a higher level of productivity. Or just whatever. You can do what I sometimes do, just listen to it as a form of entertainment, and you'll still get a lot out of it. So it's up to you. But just go into this knowing that there's a ton to get out of this if you're willing to look for it and embrace it and internalize it. So that's that. You'll see me referencing my notes here. But yeah, that does it for the preamble. Please ever so kindly click like on this and consider subscribing if you are interested in where this ship is going. We would love to have you. I'm focusing a lot more lately on the sense of community and really inclusiveness, and in not making this into a thing that like you have to fit yourself into, but something that you can take and internalize and make into your own thing and take with you in a way that makes sense for you and creates results for you. So if you feel like this would be a good addition into your life, then subscribe and become a part of this and enjoy this material as it comes. Good. All right. Part 1. Let us discuss the masculine and the feminine aspects of productivity, and let's begin by defining productivity. At its very core, productivity is getting your work done. If you want a good, accurate definition, it's that. Productivity is you getting your work done. It's as simple as that. It doesn't have to be very complicated. Where we end up spinning tons of material and having hours and hours to talk about is, what exactly is your work? How do we know which work is your work? What's the highest priority work? What happens if you don't do your work? Why don't you do your work? And then on and on we go from there. But at the very, very core, if you've defined what your work is, i.e. the stuff that is your high priority stuff, and you're doing it, then that's productivity. Then you are where you need to be. And if you're not doing your work, then, well, or if you're doing your work at any level that's below your level of satisfaction, then welcome to the discussion. Welcome to the pursuit and the study of sustainable high-level productivity. I want to also tell you at this juncture that when I talk about productivity, I'm referring to it on the micro level, which is you waking up on a Tuesday and doing the things that you need to get done, making your appointments and making your deadlines. But especially today in this video, I'm talking to you about productivity on the most macro level, the most meta level, which is you actualizing your potential in the world. And for some people, you may know what that is. And for others of you who are watching, you may not know exactly what that is. But my assumption about you every time we meet in this forum here is that I'm speaking to somebody who has a next layer of potential to be actualized in the world. And that comes in the form of knowing that you could be doing more and having a desire to do more, to complete more, to whether it's make something, create art, create business, go on an adventure, make more money, become more fit. Like there's this impulse in all of us to become more actualized, to get our shit together, to turn all the chaos in our lives into order, to take on more responsibility, to actualize a vision that we see in our minds. And every time we do that, then the next layer of potential comes online as a inside, and then it's expressed, and then the next and the next. And so I'm speaking to that part of you that feels like there's something in you that wants to do more, be more, have more, grow more, evolve more. And so that is your potential. And it's that we want to nurture and we want to encourage to come out into the world. And so that, when I refer to productivity, especially today in this video, I'm referring to that. I'm referring to you becoming a greater, more completely blossomed version of yourself. This is very important to note, because I'm going to be getting into the traditional masculine aspects of productivity, which you'll recognize, and I'll get into the feminine aspects of productivity, and you'll think, oh wait, like that's not productivity, but you will see that it actually is when we're looking at the most macro level of productivity. So that's something to keep in mind as we go forward. So it is your work in the world. And just finally, productivity is a very simple and mysterious process. It's very simple, and yet there is a lot of known and unknown. There's a lot of paradox. It's something that as I continue to study it, it just continues to unravel and open up into deeper layers of complexity and simplicity. So there's a mysterious element about that. So here is a main thesis that I'm going to put here. So if you're to ask, like, what am I communicating in this video? It's this. Oh no, I've already said it, excuse me. So it's a very valuable time. I just want to reiterate here. It is a valuable time, a valuable use of your time to study this material, to understand the differences between masculine and feminine aspects of productivity and to blend them together in order to become the most productive as we defined just a minute ago. And to discover also where you are excessively polarized in one or the other, which you will probably discover. So now we can discuss the masculine and feminine polarities. And so in this section, I could anticipate getting a little bit of pushback from some viewers. And so I'll preempt that by saying that I'm certainly not talking about how men and women are. And I'm also discussing masculine and femininity from an archetypal standpoint. So from like the kind of the purest form of itself as a concept. And you may disagree with me. This is all coming from my own study. So I like to study the work of David Data, who's done a lot of work in this, and others that are not coming to mind right now. But really looking at at its core, what is masculinity and what is femininity? And you'll find that on a surface level in human beings, it's expressed in different ways, in different volumes, in different people at different times. For myself personally, I find that I'm mostly biased in a masculine way. I mostly identify as a masculine person, but not excessively so. I'm very much in touch with my feminine side, as I always have been, and so I really teeter close to center. And as a result, I tend to attract a lot of viewers and clients who are also in that way too, are also really comfortable closer to the middle of the line. Okay, so everything has masculine and feminine aspects, and even those aspects can have masculine and feminine aspects to them, just in the same way that everything has a left and a right side. So I'm going to start with some examples to bring this to life. Seed and soil. So in this pairing, the seed is the masculine and the soil is the feminine. So the seed is the thing that is the thing that grows and moves and evolves, and the soil is the context in which the growth happens. The ship and the sea. So imagine a wooden ship, sailing ship on the ocean. The ship is the masculine and the sea is the feminine. Light and darkness. So imagine a candle in a dark room. The light in this case is the masculine. The darkness of the room is the feminine. The musician and the song. The musician being the masculine, the song being the feminine. The sperm and the egg. It's a little bit easier to grasp. The sperm being the masculine, the egg being the feminine. A guy approaching a romantic interest at a bar. So say a guy sees a woman that he likes in the bar and he wants to go and strike up a chat. The guy is playing the masculine role in the courtship, and the woman is playing the feminine role in the courtship, and I'll define all of this in just a second. And then finally here, the sommelier, so the person who studies wine, sipping a wine, smelling it, sipping it, teasing out the tasting notes and the aromatics and whatever it is they do. The sommelier being the masculine and the feminine being the wine itself. Qualities of the masculine. The masculine is seeking, searching, exploring. The masculine is an outward movement. The masculine is on a mission. The masculine is moving toward something. The masculine is in an effort or in a journey to discover or explore or attain or to get. The masculine is studying, learning, and growing. The masculine is overcoming obstacles. So a quality of the masculine is to pick a target and to narrow its focus and to move steadfastly with commitment and tenacity towards the target, overcoming obstacles and roadblocks. The masculine element keeps a keen eye on the target while also doing its best to overcome the journey until it gets there. The masculine values differentiation and individuation. So the masculine is interested in how it is different from others. It seeks to differentiate itself to become more of an individual. The masculine, if it's a part of the tribe, it's interested in defining it, having a distinct identity within the tribe or leaving the tribe to start its own thing. The masculine wants to, that's that. The masculine is closed and rigid. It's closed because that's how it stays distinct. That's how it stays individual. It's not interested in having its mind changed. It's not interested in having its trajectory changed. It tends to resist being messed with unless it, it resists guidance or lessons or teachings unless it's asking for them, or unless it believes that it needs that in order to get where it's going. And finally, the masculine is tangible, concrete, and predictable. I noticed, for example, so in my marriage, I play the masculine role in our marriage. And so my wife and I, we are lately going back and forth between our home and my in-laws' home, so her parents' home. And lately what I do on some nights is I come back in order to do some work in an undistracted way. And what I find is that when I'm home by myself, everything becomes really, really functional and utilitarian. So I will only ever take out one spoon and just use only one spoon and one fork. And if I need it again, I'll wash it again. The furnace is at a minimum. The thermostat is set at a minimum. The lights are at a minimum. The lights are mostly off, just, in order to have the minimum amount of energy usage. And everything is really rote and just sort of ascetic, very minimalist. And there's not a whole lot, music isn't playing in the background. It's just, it becomes very boring and very concrete and very predictable in sort of a way that my wife likes to tease me about. So that's what the masculine does. So the feminine, by contrast, is present and aware. The feminine is expansive. The feminine isn't so interested in its definitions and its boundaries the way the masculine is. The feminine is interested, instead of individuation and distinguishing itself, it's interested in merging and in union. So it likes to feel its commonality with everybody else. Whereas the masculine prefers discord in order to hum its own note in its own key signature and do its own thing. And you can follow me if you want to, but I'm going this way. The feminine is interested in everybody harmonizing together and wants everybody to sing in the same note, wants things to be going, is not interested in conflict, wants the conflict to be resolved for everybody to get their needs met. The feminine is loving, accepting, nurturing, merging, union, unity. The feminine is healing. So the feminine is interested in bringing itself and everybody else back into health. The feminine is aligned with beauty as opposed to functionality. So the feminine prefers things to look beautiful, to make things look beautiful. Likes colors, likes to talk about color, explore color, music, to explore the beauty of music, dance, movement. There's a big emphasis in femininity on spontaneity, just moving spontaneously in the moment. How is the universe calling upon me right now? Moving with intuition, dancing intuitively, just feeling the music and dancing, feeling the music and singing. Being inspired by the ingredients and cooking. Open and flexible, mysterious, magical, mystical. The feminine is in tune with magic, is in tune with mystery, is mysterious. And so in particular, when we're looking at, say, not a feminine person, but say, let's return to the ship and the ocean. The ocean is a mystery and it can't be controlled. And there's this quality about the femininity of the ocean where it will either favor you and grant you passage, or it won't favor you and it will kill you, and it will crush you with great impunity, very completely, with great intensity. And there's also an interesting theme between masculine and feminine dynamics, where in order for the feminine to give up herself, we'll call it, to give up her gift, in order for the femininity to allow the masculinity truly in, to get the real prize, whether it's safe passage across the ocean, whether it's sex in the case of, approaching somebody in the bar, whether it is for the sommelier to really get to the bottom of the tasting notes of that particular wine, to receive the true hidden gifts of the wine. The masculine needs to be absolutely focused and absolutely tenacious. So you can see there's this mutually reinforcing loop between the two, where masculine needs to be completely goal-oriented, completely focused, completely determined, not interested in any distracting messaging that's coming from without and within. Doesn't matter if the masculine is tired or scared. Must be completely focused, and the femininity is watching and testing the masculinity to see if the masculinity drops its attention even for a second, and then start from the beginning. Back to the beginning you go. So it's kind of a cool dynamic there. So just finally, a few thoughts here. The feminine is that which is sought by the masculine. As we discussed, the feminine will test the quality of the masculine. So testing the focus, but testing the quality, testing the strength, testing the character. It's like when, say somebody approaches, it doesn't have to be a woman approach, it doesn't have to be a man approaching a woman. Of course, it could be a woman approaching a woman in a bar, as long as there's a romantic kind of interest there. And so the one being approached will be the one who will say, they may rebuff, say like, no, I'm not interested, get out of here. And, of course, it could be the case like, I don't want to be approached. But in the case of courtship, it could be something like no, go away, but seeing if the person will overcome that obstacle, to see if they're really not too insecure or self-conscious. Because the femininity wants to hold out for the very best that the masculinity has to offer and won't settle for less. Good. Okay, so now that we've discussed masculine and femininity in its archetypal form, so now, okay, how does this apply to productivity? Okay, so you can see where this is going now. You can see, how this is coming together. With masculine productivity, so it involves pushing outside of boundaries. So, okay, you can think of, if you're a person on Reddit, then masculine productivity is what you would find on r/productivity, r/get disciplined, r/how to not give a fuck. That's one, too. And then any of these more sort of more kind of r/stoicism, this kind of thing, anything that involves the denial of the self for the goal, this kind of thing. And I would also maybe say r/get motivated, but it's actually trending a little bit more feminine lately, as you may also discover. So it involves, from a productivity standpoint, involves pushing comfort boundaries. So there is a fixation on and an encouragement towards moving outside of your comfort zone and overriding your impulse to stay inside of your comfort zone in order to accomplish the productivity. So, if you're scared to get on stage and speak, masculine productivity says do that, move outside of your comfort zone. This involves, so we just discussed emotional comfort zone, but then of course there's also the physical comfort zone. So if you're ever on a marathon or what's this, triathlon, like a triathlon kind of thing, and you start to get tired, masculine productivity would say, push past the pain. If you start to feel pain, you're only 40% complete, you have 60% of the energy left in the tank, keep going until you really, fall on your face, this kind of thing. And so this messaging of pushing past exhaustion, pushing past your physicality asking you to stop, that is the masculine productivity message. Self-discipline, discussions of self-discipline. Regular self-discipline, so every day have your morning ritual, this kind of thing. Every day, get up early. Masculine productivity is creating structures and forcing yourself into these structures. So masculine productivity says, when are you getting up in the morning? Is it 6 a.m.? Okay, make yourself get up at 6 a.m. Do it. Do it. Just do it. Get up at 6 a.m. Masculine productivity is seeing where you are making excuses and don't fall for them. There's a huge disdain in masculine productivity toward excuse making. Like you already know this, right? You know what I'm talking about. No excuses, right? Like that sort of messaging. I don't want to hear any excuses. I'm so sick of my own excuses, we might say. No excuses, just do it. Masculine productivity is setting high standards for yourself and meeting them, aiming real high, delusionally high, setting an ambition. It's having goals and ambitions. And then finally, masculine productivity is taking control. Being in control, taking responsibility. So saying to yourself, I'm the master of my destiny. I'm the master of this ship. I'm gonna make it happen no matter what. So now, feminine productivity. Feminine productivity says, follow your heart. What does your heart say? What's in your heart? Feminine productivity is follow your intuition. Follow your desire. Follow your energies. So for example, follow your circadian rhythms. Wake up whenever you are going to wake up. Listen to your body. Need a nap? Take a nap. Are you hungry? Eat. Feminine productivity paradoxically says, if you want candy, if you want sugar, eat it. If you want alcohol, eat it. If you want to smoke tobacco, smoke it. Do what you are feeling called to do. Do what's in you to do. Trust your inner impulse. Trust yourself. Another big aspect, a huge aspect, is trust. Trust that you're on the right path. Trust that you are where you should be. Trust that the universe knows who you are and is here for you and sees you and loves you. Trust that you have potential and you are actualizing it. And so this is trust that is in contrast to control, masculine control. Feminine productivity is inner psychological work. Seeing a therapist, a counselor, a coach. But a coach like that, this is what I do, is do a coach that will help you through your inner work, looking inside. If you said you're going to do something and you don't do it, feminine productivity asks, what was in the way? Why didn't you? Masculine productivity says, why didn't you do it? Feminine productivity says, wait, is there a fear? Is there an unprocessed trauma? Can you also just feel the shift in the energy as I'm evoking these two different energies? Like, do you notice how it just feels like a little bit more calm and kind of grounded and centered and more loving? Feminine productivity is interested in channeling, mysticism, manifestation, the law of attraction, manifesting, dream boards, vision boards, affirmations. The feminine productivity is the way of the Tao. There's a verse in the Tao with a line that roughly goes something like, the Tao leaves nothing done. The Tao does nothing and leaves nothing undone. Through the Tao, everything is done. And then finally, as we're hinting at, feminine productivity is the surrender of control. Is admitting to oneself, I'm ultimately out of control. I can do my best, I can try so hard, and in the end, it doesn't really matter, to quote Linkin Park. I'm out of control. I can only control so much. And even then, it's just fake control. It's not real control. I'm going to give you a metaphor. And this is going to inform our discussion going forward as we talk about correcting the imbalances of masculine and feminine productivity. It's the metaphor of the garden hose. So suppose you go out into your backyard and you see a garden hose and you need some water. So you want to start watering the lawn, let's say. And you look at the hose and you notice that it's all tangled up. It's knotted up tightly, several knots, and then knots on top of the knots. But what you also notice is that if you turn on the tap, there is enough of a channel in the hose that you can actually get some water. And so you have several options at this point. You can turn on the tap a little bit and have a little bit of a trickle of water come out, and you can water the garden with that. You could turn the hose up even more, turn the tap on even more, and get even a little bit more water coming out. But then that's kind of at risk of breaking the hose or deteriorating the hose somewhat, because when you increase more pressure into a knotted up hose, it kind of builds up and starts to wear upon the body of the hose. And then, of course, the third option is to stop and untangle the hose, which takes time, is a slow process, can be confusing, and you will not water your garden. You will not successfully water your garden as you're untangling the hose. So it'll feel like kind of like wasting time, right? Because you're not, like, no progress is being made on the level of watering your garden because you're just untangling these hoses. It just feels like you're solving little puzzles. And so you may even feel a temptation to go back and forth. Like maybe like one day you'll untangle some knots, and maybe on the other day, oh, screw it, I'll just water as much as I can the way it is. And so this metaphor is masculine versus feminine productivity, because with masculine productivity, you can just keep cranking the pressure of the hose, the water rather, like, you know, more and more up, and you can get some that way, but at the cost of yourself, the cost of your wellness, and eventually at the cost of you. Or you can untangle all of the knots in the hose, and that is quite an investment of time. It's confusing. It seems to go on and on forever, but then eventually you can get so many knots out of your hose that the water just, you know, flows out really freely and effortlessly. And so ideally, we want to blend these two together. We want to do a mixture of both. For me, for the longest time, because I'm really, when it comes to productivity, I really tend to favor the feminine aspect of it. And for the longest time, it felt to me like, the big mission at hand is to just get the hose completely untangled and then turn on the hose. But that's not really the solution, because the process, in our work here it's a lifelong process of untangling knots, because it's not like you ever get to the bottom of it. You just find finer and finer knots. And as you do, the water can flow out more elegantly and beautiful each time. And so really, ultimately, what we're doing here is we're creating a good back and forth balance between the two, because that's how you'll have access to the maximum amount of productivity that you have now. And then also that capacity increases over time. And I'm telling you about all this now because I want you to start getting an idea of where you are biased. Are you biased more masculine, or are you biased more feminine? And I would like for you to start to address where you have disdain or disapproval for the other one. So which aspect of masculine or feminine productivity do you feel like is, they're just lying to themselves over there. They're the ones wasting time. This is the real work here. Because that will show how you're partial in your perspective, and how you are not, you are denying yourself the opportunity to really get into the center and really step into sustainable, high-level productivity. And then finally, as I talk about sustainable high-level productivity, notice the masculine and feminine qualities even of this statement. Sustainable, feminine, high-level, masculine, right? So we're marrying these two things together. Here are some masculine productivity public figures. There are 4. David Goggins, I was not familiar with him up until I started doing this research, but he has a school of thought, or perhaps a book, that's called, I think, Maximum Ownership, or Extreme Ownership, or Extreme Responsibility. So you can even just get, like, even without reading, you can get a sense of what we're about to talk about. Extreme ownership. Everything's my fault. Everything's my responsibility. It's making, putting everything under my domain, right? Which is incredibly empowering, but then it, excessively so that it starts to drive us a bit batty. Andrew Tate, although in addition to Andrew Tate, there's also sociopathy and and other narcissism and extra stuff that doesn't have anything to do with masculinity. It's just but this stuff about, like, achieve. Like, I remember I listened to a video of him speaking, and he was lecturing some audience, and he was like, like, I woke up and I didn't have the things I wanted. I didn't have my car and my plane and my money, and I was pissed. And I want you to be pissed off. I want you to be angry until you get what you want. So that's a masculine style message. Grant Cardone, Jocko Willink. So all of these figures are biased towards the masculine end. Feminine productivity figures. We have the body of thought of law of attraction, especially as espoused by Abraham Hicks. Abraham being a spirit entity that's channeled by Esther Hicks. Any of these manifestation types. Access consciousness as a body of work by Gary Douglas and Dane here as well. Bashar, another channeled entity by some fellow whose name escapes me. And then finally, Wayne Dyer, who there's a lot of femininity in his philosophy. And at one point, I think he didn't actually make a book called this, but he was talking about this. He said, I'm going to write a book that's called Don't Do Something, Just Stand There, which is an adaptation of the regular turn of phrase, don't just stand there, do something. And so that would also demonstrate that as well. When I mention these figures, by the way, none of this at all is to mention them in a pejorative light or a negative light. A lot of them I truly love and have gotten deep important value from them. Like a lot of what I've become now is in part due to these people, mostly the feminine productivity types, not so much the masculine types. But it can go both ways. Like, you can start from the masculine route and then bring in the feminine, or start from the feminine and bring in the masculine. But we're still partial, and we're still looking to integrate these polarities. Okay, so some qualities of excessive feminine. And so now, as I list these, there's 5 lines per section. And so as I list these, just see if you notice any of these in yourself. Excessive feminine, like, if you find yourself way too far in the direction of femininity, you'll end up in a place of powerlessness, victimhood, and a sense of something or someone else will do it for me, whether it's God, the universe, Christ, the law of attraction. Like, it's going to be done for me. I don't have to do it. It will be done for me. Never moving outside of the comfort zone, expecting everything to meet us inside of our comfort zone. Heeding all inner impulses and desires without discernment. So femininity doesn't discern between, say, like, the intuitive impulse to grow and the intuitive impulse to for instant gratification, sugar, or whatever else. Excessive feminine is only inner work, so it's only untangling the knot and not opening up the hose anymore. And then finally, it is, and a little bit of pushback I may get from you here, but it also has to do with when we get to late stage capitalism style thought and anti-work or work reform sentiment. So what's good about these things, not to get overly deep, is that these are important and valuable healing and corrective impulses to move society, the working society, back to center, which has been polarized excessively masculine. Back in the day, it was like, work your way up the ladder, focus, come in early, leave late. And so lately, especially on Reddit, there's a big corrective impulse back to center, which is like, work isn't everything. Look at, where capitalism has left us. And there's a lot of important, valuable messaging there. But What can happen is when we immerse ourselves so deeply in this kind of rhetoric, then that will put us in a passive place where we are just kind of waiting for capitalism to go away, waiting for society to shift until the circumstances are a little bit more opportune for us to meet our needs or whatever. And so the message for people in this situation is to embrace the masculine aspect of taking your destiny back into your own hands. So hopefully that's clear enough. Excessive masculine is extreme ownership. Everything's my responsibility, as I was mentioning. Excessive masculine is refusal to listen to yourself. And there's even a sense of anger and disdain for the self when it starts to complain, when we start to get tired, when we're not feeling willpower, when we're, giving ourselves excuses, we feel anger and resentment towards these aspects of ourselves. That's excessive masculinity. Pushing to exhaustion, depletion, injury, and even death. Pushing to these limits without stopping. And then finally, excessive masculine is only outer work and a refusal to do inner work, refusal to heal inner trauma, and so forth. And then just to wrap up this section, I would like to note that you can create results with your polarity imbalanced. So if you're out of whack, you still can create success for yourself, but it won't be sustainable high-level productivity. So what is sustainable high-level productivity? So now, okay, we're getting to the part now where we can blend and integrate the polarities together. So what does that look like? So I'm going to start by giving you a list of figures that, to my eyes, in my view, they have managed to effectively blend the masculine and feminine productivity polarities and are now in sustainable high-level productivity, as I like to describe it. Tony Robbins, although there's still, I find, a slight emphasis on masculine. Brendon Burchard, same thing. Eben Pagan, a really amazing business teacher. Leo Gura from actualized.org. Matt Kahn, the spiritual speaker and teacher who focuses on heart-centeredness. Ken Wilber, the visionary creator of the integral theory framework. And Lee Harris, who's a speaker that I admire, who gives channeled messages and does monthly energy updates. So all those. Characteristics of a person and an experience where we have blended and thoroughly integrated feminine and masculine polarities into our productivity. There is enjoyment, engagement, and excitement. We're in our life and we're in enjoyment. Our work is enjoyable. It can be challenging, sometimes frustrating, sometimes hard, but damn, it's exciting. It's exciting to be a part of it, and there's enjoyment. There's energy. We feel ourselves energized. We're not depleted. We have tons and tons of energy. We are in the flow state, which I speak a lot about. And if you're interested in the flow state, I also made a foundational video on the flow state most recently, and the name of it is, I forget, but look for my most recent video from here on the flow state, and that it will give you a good, absolutely comprehensive idea of that. There is a rapidly evolving back and forth between the self and other. So when you're in this blended state, there's this back and forth. So say you're a musician, you're actually making music and posting it, and people are listening to it and telling you what they think. And you're taking that feedback and integrating it and then putting out more. And so there's a back and forth between you and society when people listen to your work, read your work, interact with your business, whatever it is, as opposed to just only being in your mind where you just kind of think about doing these things but don't actually do them. There is great satisfaction. You feel satisfied. Not like a masculine sense of I'll be satisfied once I get there and I never get there, nor a feminine sense of satisfaction like, there's nothing that I have to do because I'm already perfect and everything's good right now, and so therefore I'm satisfied with a place of, but without really having done anything. There's satisfaction of I'm completely plugged into my life and I'm just really happy with where I am now. It's like I could die now and I'd be totally happy. When we blend and integrate these polarities, we have a lot more mystical experiences and synchronicity. The masculine has total disdain and calls it ascientific, this sort of mysticism and the synchronicities, and excessive feminine just depends on these to do all the work for them. But when we're really, really blended, then we're working with these. We're cooperating with synchronicities and mysticism. There's a paradoxical sense of individuation and integration. So the way this shows up for me, because another one is Adi Ashanti, the spiritual speaker. A lot of these people, a lot of them, when you talk to them, they're just regular people. And they've really, really deeply embraced the fact of the matter that they're just another ape. They're just another dumbass human being. They're not above or below. They're not elevated in some way. You know, they still wait in line at the grocery store. They still have to get their car fixed, you know, all these things. So there's a real ordinariness and a complete lack of seeing it yourself as if you're some sort of like God or above humanity. And yet at the same time, there's such an intense exploration of your individual gifts and your uniqueness that you become a complete, prototypical, idiosyncratic, one-of-a-kind person in the world, which is really exciting. I have another video that's called Prioritize Self-Expression Above All Else as the highest priority. Prioritize self-expression. That's a really, really good one. That will talk more about that. There is velocity and stillness. So when you're in this state, there's a sense of rapid movement, but also it feels very still. It feels like you're not really moving at all. Just in the same way as if you were in a jet plane, the jet plane's moving incredibly fast, but sitting in center, you've already acclimatized to the speed, so you feel like you're being still. You feel deeply empowered. There's a sense of control and a surrender to the lack of control. So there's a sense of, if you're in the ship crossing the ocean, there's a sense of like, okay, we have our cartography, we have our sails, we have our experience, we kind of know what we're doing, we sort of know what we're doing, and also the ocean could totally kill us, and if it's going to do that, then we have no say in the matter. And so we're resting really easy in this uncertain paradox of I'm in control and I have no control. The control is essential, but also it can be overridden, and so really I don't have control, but I still am in control. And so we're really, we've made peace with that paradox. And then finally, even though this is more of a feminine concept, there is a more meta sense of deep trust. There's trust that everything is as it should be. I'm on the right track. And there's a sense of trust in our vision. So, you know, from the masculine perspective, we have a vision and a goal and we're going toward it. And then there's a feminine trust of like, I'm going to stick with this plan that I've made, even though I don't know for sure. So in terms of what you can do now, practically speaking, to start blending these together, well, in order to start, the first order of business is for you to figure out where you are polarized. So as I've been talking about, you kind of get a sense of where you're polarized. Do you tend more towards the feminine or masculine? Which one feels like your home? Which side irritates you? Which side feels false? And let's dial up the honesty all the way to 10. So let's get all the way honest with ourselves and let's ask, what needs more attention? Do you need to open up the tap more to get more water going through your hose? Or is it time to give some attention to the hose? Have you been totally ignoring that element? So I'm going to give a list here of how to correct towards both opposites, and then we're going to start calling it a day because I think we're running pretty long now. So how to correct toward the feminine. So if you're excessively polarized towards masculine, how to come back towards feminine. Realize that there's nothing that you could add to your experience that could make you happy. There's nothing that there's no amount of traveling you can do. There's no amount of money you can make. There's no amount of sexual activity that you could have. There's no level of influence or power or fame that you could attain that would truly make you happy. None of these things have the capacity to make you happy. Happiness is, it's based on your relationship with your now experience right now. Are you in a harmonious or dissonant relationship with the now moment, with your situation now? Realize that at the very bottom, you don't have control and you're at the mercy of the universe. Sometimes shit just happens. Sometimes bad things happen. And you look back on and think of what you could have done to prevent it, but it doesn't matter, right? Like, and the masculine always falls into this trap of like, oh, I see how I could have prevented it. And then they'll make this leap and say, I should have known. I should have known. This is false. If you knew, then you would have known. Notice how heavily you've commoditized time, that wasting time feels like pain. Notice how uncomfortable you feel when you're not in the process of achieving something. So if you feel like you have to turn every moment into productivity, where even on like a Sunday morning, you're like, well, I'm not working, but I could read a book, or I could, clean up around the house and I'm still getting something done. Where it's like, it's always like trying to get something done, always trying to do something for the future so that there's no now. That's excessive masculine polarity. And then practice existing in a state of non-productivity. So practice doing something that is not accomplishing anything. Allow time to waste. Waste time on purpose. Proactively waste time. Not all of it, but an hour or a day. Stop pushing through friction and notice where there's friction. Where's there friction? Where are you constantly banging your toe on a coffee table? Don't get better at banging your toe and dealing with the pain. Move the fucking coffee table, right? And of course, that's a metaphor. So where else does this apply in your life? Where are you just pushing through needless friction? Bring attention to your emotions, especially your base emotions. So when I say that, I mean, ask yourself, what does it feel like to be you emotionally? What's your base emotion? Is it fear, boredom, anxiousness, nervousness? Bring attention to that, because that's how it feels to be you. That's how it feels to exist as you. And so are you on this like big campaign in your life in order to like get to a point of accomplishment and victory so that you don't have to feel this anymore? That won't work. Create peace in yourself by bringing attention inside to your emotions. Make peace there so that you don't need to get anywhere. We drop this sense of needing to get somewhere, needing to arrive, arriving here, letting the journey bring satisfaction to you. This is correcting masculine toward feminine. Correcting towards masculine. Realizing that nothing will happen without your conscious participation. So if you're deep into the manifestation, law of attraction, all of us have had some success with like intending something and then it shows up the next day and it happened. Like, I shit you not, masculine, if you're listening, it happens. If you really, really like embrace the law of attraction, it will work for you in ways that will blow your mind right out of the water. It's a crazy, crazy study with real results. But they're not predictable and you can't really do science on them and they're fickle. And usually you get the first couple for free and then you think, oh, I see, I can build my business out of this just by intending a pizza to come every single day. But it's like, no, you get that one pizza, it's miraculous. But then the universe is like, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do all of it for you. I'm not going to live your life for you. You have to. You have to participate. And then once you do, then the synchronicity starts to come back online. So realize there's no circumventing the elements of work, effort, habit setting, and the denial of instant gratification. You, along this journey, you will have to say no to yourself and have enough self-respect to maintain that no. No cookie. Realize that to become actualized, you must create a structure and then exist within the boundaries of that structure. So commit to doing something and then actually do it. If you're going to exercise, actually exercise. Because if you say you're going to exercise and you don't, then you weaken your self-integrity. You had effectively lied to yourself. And then you become less trustworthy to yourself So use your word, say what you're going to do, and then do it. Connect word with action, which is what I just said. Use your word and make good on it with your action. And then finally, take leadership over yourself the way a captain takes leadership over a ship. Be in a leadership spot. Be willing to give orders and be willing to follow them. Be in harmony with yourself as a leader. Be your own leader and be your own follower. So we're starting to wrap up here. A final comment about this state of blendedness. If we were to find one way to really describe it and encapsulate it, it would be this. It would be to be at center. Being at center. Being in the throne of your experience. You're not pushing something quicker than it otherwise will go. Say you're a farmer, you're planting crops, nothing you can do about speeding up the crops. All you can do is hold space for the crops. There's a lack of control there. So being a king or a queen in your throne, being at center, when it comes time to do something, you do it. When you create a structure, you stick with the structure. You are conscious and online. There's no sense of complaint against your situation. There's a willingness to accept full responsibility for your situation, not an excessive responsibility for everything that happens in the world ever, but a sense of empowerment like, okay, I'm in the helm of my life. I'm the captain. I'm in charge. I'm the boss. Whatever can be done, I intend to do. I'm going to start turning chaos into order. Let's go. So that's the blending. So I would love for you to internalize this and to figure out what it looks like for you. Thank you so much for watching. This was an absolute delight to make and share with you. I hope you got a lot out of it. Please hit like on the video. Again, that's very valuable and important. Leave a comment if you learned something. Let me know what you learned. I want to know. This is really exciting for me. And then finally, just one more thing. I'm starting an accountability group that's for free. It's a Discord group. It includes daily check-ins and a live coaching call on Zoom every week. And that's really exciting and promising. And we're going to get going very soon. So hit me up. Just, I guess, email me at hello@brenthiris.com if you're interested. And I'll give you a form to fill out. And then that will be all. Thank you. Goodbye.